If you want to understand modern movies, everything from how an action scene gets your heart pounding to the way a simple close-up can just make you cry, you've got to understand the man who basically wrote the rulebook, D W Griffith. People call him the father of film, and for good reason.
But what if that simple story, the one about the great inventor, had a really, really dark side? Because, see, Griffith's legacy is a total paradox. He's this brilliant architect, right? He built the very tools of cinema that we still use today. But he then turned around and used those exact same tools to create one of the most destructive and hateful films ever made. Okay, so to really get our heads around this contradiction, we have to start with the genius part, because you can't deny it. Before Griffith came along, movies were, well, they were basically just a gimmick, not really an art form yet.
Seriously. Before him, the camera was just stuck. It was a static observer, basically planted in the best seat in the theater, just watching actors walk back and forth. But Griffith, he had this huge realization. The camera isn't just an eye, it's a storyteller. And so he built what you could call the Griffith toolkit. This stuff is foundational. He gave us the close-up, right? Moving the camera right into an actor's face to catch every flicker of emotion. He pioneered the flashback, letting filmmakers jump around in time to tell way more complex stories. And he thought big, on an epic scale, showing everyone that movies could be these huge, grand spectacles. But maybe the most important tool he gave us? Parallel editing.
Yeah, this is the big one. Parallel editing. You might have heard it called cross-cutting. It's pretty much the DNA of cinematic tension. It's that whole technique of jumping between two different things happening at the same time to build suspense. And boy, was Griffith the master of it.
And his signature move? It was the last-minute rescue. You've seen this a million times, I guarantee it. So step 1, show the person in danger. Step 2, show the hero racing to save them. Then you just cut back and forth, faster and faster and faster. Your heart starts pounding, right? That feeling, that is pure D.W. Griffith. Every single action movie today owes him for that trick. But this is where the story takes a really sharp, really dark turn. Because Griffith took all of that incredible artistic genius, and he poured every last drop of it into his most famous and infamous film, The Birth of a Nation. And you have to understand, this movie was huge. It was the first real blockbuster in American history. We're talking 3 hours long, epic battle scenes. It was such a big deal. It was the very first movie ever screened inside the White House. But all that success was hiding something truly ugly. Because underneath all that technical skill, the movie's message was just poison. It was basically a cinematic monument to racism. So here's the crucial thing to get. Griffith used his revolutionary film techniques as a weapon. The movie completely rewrites American history to push the whole lost cause myth. It shows African Americans, played by white actors in awful blackface, as these dangerous villains. And, worst of all, it glorifies the Ku Klux Klan as heroic saviors. The impact was immediate and devastating. It directly incited racial violence and is credited with sparking the modern revival of the KKK. Now, here's where it gets even more complicated. The man himself, Griffith, was apparently genuinely shocked by the backlash from groups like the NAACP. In his own mind, he wasn't making propaganda. He thought he was just being a historian, showing things how they were. And that massive blind spot, that's at the very heart of his legacy. So, feeling the heat from all the accusations, Griffith decided to respond. But he didn't just write a letter to the editor. No, he was a filmmaker. His response was going to be another movie. And he didn't just make another movie. He made Intolerance, one of the most ridiculously ambitious films ever attempted. This was his answer, his cinematic rebuttal, a giant, roaring statement against the very bigotry people said he was promoting. Look at the structure of this thing. It was insane. He took 4 completely separate stories from 4 different points in history. We're talking ancient Babylon, the life of Christ, 16th century France, and modern-day America, and he just wove them all together. He used his cross-cutting technique across centuries to make this one giant point, that intolerance has always been humanity's biggest problem. The scale was just mind-boggling. Sets hundreds of feet tall, thousands and thousands of extras, and it was a complete and total flop. Audiences were just confused by it. They thought it was preachy. But here's the twist. While it bombed the box office, it became like a sacred text for future filmmakers, especially the great Soviet directors.
They studied its complex editing frame by frame and built their whole theory of montage on top of it.
So, where does all this leave us? I mean, how are we supposed to make sense of this? The master craftsman on one hand and the master propagandist on the other.
We're left wrestling with this massive conflict, right? You have the architect who literally wrote the grammar of film, and you have the agitator who used that grammar to twist history. The man who gave movies emotion also gave them a hateful ideology. He proved film could be high art, and in the very same breath, proved it could be a powerful, dangerous weapon. You just can't separate the two.
And at the end of the day, his story isn't really just about one guy. To study D.W. Griffith is to study the dual nature of media itself. Its incredible power to create beauty and empathy, and its equally terrifying power to spread hate and lies.
And that leaves us with a question that is frankly more relevant today than ever before. We are surrounded every single day by powerful images and stories designed to make us feel something. So looking back at this incredibly complicated legacy, the man who invented so much of how we see the world, we kind of have to ask ourselves, how do we deal with that? How do we reckon with art that gives us something beautiful but also causes real harm?